Hopefully by now you've watched enough episodes of The Pulse to know what we focus on. It's interesting people, exciting and entertaining people who are making an impact and sharing their stories with us. But every now and then, after more than 150 episodes, we like to just take a second to look back on the people who have had the largest impact and just spend some more time with them. So that's what we're going to do for the next 30 minutes. So sit back and enjoy some of the best comedians, actors, sports legends, and more. This is the best of The Pulse. So first up, a couple of really cool and impactful actors, the Bacon brothers and Ben Barnes. Success has obviously been something that you have all experienced. And I did some research into your mom. Like, your mom was a big deal. Like, she's the Please Touch Museum and CCP and several kind of institutions that are changing Philadelphia and have changed Philadelphia. Yeah. So even before all of the success you've experienced, was this always you? Like, did she kind of put in the success to significance? Like, you kind of need to change things, or did that evolve?
When it comes to my mom's sort of influence on me, there was a moment when it was important to me, sort of activism and community engagement, but that kind of stopped when I went to New York to become an actor, because I was so incredibly self-involved and so hungry to make it, whatever that meant, to become successful, that I really stopped thinking about the world completely. I only thought about KB for a really long time.
Okay.
And I think that probably, the birth of when my kids were born, and that just, my wife was very, very active early on in environmental things, and then kind of being in New York on 9/11, and it was, I just sort of started to come back around, I think, to my mother's way of thinking about the world, but that kind of foundation was already sort of there. And this is a corny thing to say, but I have so much gratitude for what I have, and I am so hyper aware of the gifts that this career has afforded me, that I think that just to live your life as a decent person on this planet, you need to have at some point be able to give a little bit back. And it's, I know you say that we don't have to do it, and it's true, but it's also, in the bigger scheme of things, it's a pretty light lift.
One of the challenges, and one of the things, I guess, that drove you back to music and wanting to do the music is your voice.
I think probably as you get older, as a person, you start to think about, for me anyway, I think it was honestly the scare was when the pandemic hit, like it was, I think, for a lot of people in different ways, to try new things, and it released us from all the comforts that we had in our life and all the things we had to look forward to in the short term. And I definitely projected forward to, an 80-year-old version of myself looking back on my life thinking, you really never found the courage to do music?
Okay.
Wow, I'm disappointed in you. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, from that perspective, what am I waiting for? Even though I was playing, villains in fantasy shows, swishing my cloak around, I was still looking for ways to sew pieces of myself and my ideologies into these characters, and going to the showrunners and saying, what if I said this line like this? And I realized what I'm trying to do is like garner some control and try to tell stories in my way, when actually it's not my story, this one.
Right.
So, and really the only solution to that is to start with a blank piece of paper and tell your own
story.
And that's kind of scary sometimes, especially for actors who, I think for a lot of us, it's very comfortable to hide behind someone else's words, someone else's costume.
We've had several people on who have talked about that scenario, and they were, I guess, so good at the role, or people associated them with the role. Like, we've had people who were getting slapped in airports, or people who were getting kind of yelled at for things that their character did.
The other thing that no one ever really gets into is, like, actors watch stuff too, and so when I watch TV shows, I associate them with the characters that I've watched them play,
right,
and I've loved them as, and if they've been heroes, I kind of am slightly in awe, and if they're kind of often playing like twisted Machiavellian characters, I kind of have an element of distrust. Like, we're all susceptible to that same kind of judgment. And I think recently for me, I've probably played 5 or 6 years worth of, villains and psychos. And I was like, oh wow, it's really important for me to tell my like agenting team, I need to play a guy that you're rooting for next, because that's important to me in life, to like, for that not to necessarily be the whole legacy. It's fun to be the bad guy, and it's fun to like play the villain, and as an actor that's a really fun task. But I did start, as I said, you're thinking about looking back at it all, and you want some balance in that as well, I think.
Yeah. Next up, sometimes we just sit back and laugh with some people who are just a good time. And that's what's coming up next. Comedians Kym Whitley and Kathy Griffin. Next up, we've got a couple of comedians, but they're comedians with really unique stories. First up is Kym Whitley, who tells her stories of breaking into the business and probably flirted with me just a little bit. She likes the eyebrows. And then we follow that up with comedian Kathy Griffin, who many of you may know has been through quite a bit. So she shares her stories about how she overcame some of those obstacles, worked her way back into the spotlight, and trying to make a difference. Comedians make us laugh and make us think. People know you for various reasons. You've been doing this for a minute. Comedy tours, multiple shows, podcasts now with your girl Sherry.
Can we talk about your eyebrows? See, this is the thickest, nicest women want those eyebrows. And I apologize to go off the rails, but as you get older, you lose some hair follicles. If I had your eyebrows on my face right now, I'd be 35. Okay, go back to your question. I apologize.
I don't remember what the question was. I heard a story about Red Fox said you were funny. Is this true?
Yeah, back in the day, I was on the set of Harlem Nights, and I was babysitting basically one of the little kids, the kid that was in the movie. His dad couldn't make it, and it was Red Fox. I think it was Ronaldo Ray standing up, Red Fox was sitting down, Eddie Murphy, and Richard Pryor. And I walked around a corner, and Ronaldo Ray was like, I was like, oh, there's no seats. I'll go back. He said, as long as I got a face, you got somewhere to sit. And I turned real fast. I said, well, as long as your face looks like that, I guess I'll be standing. And all I remember is Red Fox spit his coffee. All the men jumped up, and I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And that's when Red Fox approached me, and he said, you should be doing stand-up.
So from him saying that to you deciding to do it was how long?
The day he died. I know, it sounds crazy, because he said, get 10 minutes of material together and I'll help you. Well, first of all, 10 minutes of material to someone who's never done, that sounds like 4 hours. You're like, 10 minutes, oh my gosh. And that's why you gotta remember, when opportunity knocks, you gotta take it. I didn't do it. So the day he died, I went out and did 2 minutes on stage to honor him. So that's how I started.
Department of Justice was looking into charging you with conspiracy to assassinate the president. So they were taking this very seriously. It was also a time where you mentioned earlier you were diagnosed with lung cancer in kind of after this, went through a divorce, tragically lost your mother, were battling an addiction, and all of this kind of
I was on one of those 5150 psych holds for 3 days in a psych ward of a hospital after I tried to off myself. I mean, I've been through some crap.
How do you recover from something that many people didn't even know you went through, some of this? And others are like, even if I did, I'm not talking about it.
The thing that saved my life was laughter and comedy. If I could make my friends laugh, it made me feel like I had a reason to live. And then the thought of working again, even though for 6.5 years I was out of work, and I really, really didn't know if I would ever have permission to stand on any stage anywhere and just try to make people laugh, which is what I have been doing for a living for decades, not to mention the specials, a reality show, a game show, a scripted show, 2 Emmys and a Grammy. All that went out the window once I became, the most toxic person in Hollywood. And about 75% of my friends ditched me. And that was really hard and it was painful. And so going through all that stuff, the only thing that really kept me going were, well, okay, my dogs, but also just laughter.
Yeah.
And there would be times when I was at my very, very lowest, but something funny would just come into my brain. And being a comedian through and through, I would still find a cocktail napkin or something and write it down. The whole 6.5 years, I was still writing down little pieces of things, and that would get me through the day. And when I got, lung cancer, I thought, you know what? Everyone in my audience has probably been touched by cancer in some way, shape, or form. So I'm going to make it funny.
Comedy really healed you.
I believe comedy can heal everyone. Like, I am a true believer in not only laughing when it's easy and you're in a lighthearted setting, but I really think there is such value to being at a point in your life where you might think there's nothing funny about it, but just taking 1 second to be like, okay, look around. Maybe there's something that isn't funny today, but when you look back on it in 6 months, somehow it'll be funny.
Guys, anybody who watches the show knows that I love talking sports. And when you get a chance to talk to local success stories like Dawn Staley and David Feldman, it's really a good time. Stay tuned. So as I said, I love talking sports, but when you get a chance to talk sports with local legends with such different stories, people like Dawn Staley, who was a standout player herself, then went on to become one of the most successful coaches of all time, and David Feldman, who has been grinding, struggling, building until his bare knuckle fighting championship took off. Great stories that you're going to enjoy. In the book, Uncommon Favor, you talk about your mom, you talk about North Philly, you talk about the upbringing in really glowing terms, but it wasn't easy. Was that just kind of what inspired it to be you now?
My mom was strict, like really strict, and you acclimate to it, right? Under my mother's roof, you're gonna abide by her rules, whatever the rules are. More, again, character traits. It's just as repercussions if you break those rules. But once you acclimated and you really see what the projects were all about, it was about community. It was about discipline. It was about togetherness. It was about a helping hand. Like, all of those things were a part of my upbringing. But if you were on the outside looking in, you can't see it because you're not a fabric of our community. You're just an outsider looking in saying, first thing that comes to mind is, poverty. Second thing is crime infested. That's not the first thing that comes to mind when you're in it. And I think those are valuable lessons that I've taken, from when as far as I can remember, 8, 7, 6 to now. And nothing changes with how you treat people. Nothing changes with the discipline you need to be successful. Nothing changes with treating people with respect and having community. And our community was like a team. It's a team effort in order for us. We had the cleanest block in the projects. When I tell you the cleanest, manicure lawns, like everything, because we had a strict block captain, Ms. Jones.
You come to South Carolina. They're not very good when you get there. Players follow you. You kind of build into a powerhouse now. Is it hard getting you're getting the best players from across the country, and sometimes on your team, they got to sit for 2 years
Right.
Before they ever get onto the court. So it seems like you're not just developing great players, you're developing great people.
I do think young people are attracted to winning. That's number one, right? And they're probably thinking, that probably won't be me having to sit for 2 years. If someone's outplaying you, if someone's outscoring you, if someone's out hustling you, then that lends itself to playing time. But aside from that, I think I have a reputation of probably being a little more strict than traditional. But for me, it's not even that. It's like our team rules are like great character traits. It's not anything different. Be on time. Be respectful. Like, those are team rules. And if you can't be that, then you're not going to be successful anywhere you go. So I just want to make sure that we keep those qualities intact, because that creates just good synergy. Respect, and you respect the game, you respect your opponents, you respect your teammates, you respect your professors, you respect the community and what it does for our team, I think you'll get more rewarded for that than anything.
I was reading articles about your background. I've known your brother for years.
Yeah.
And you guys had tough coming up.
Sure.
How comfortable are you sharing some of those challenges that got you to where you are?
I mean, I'm very comfortable sharing them. I think the main thing here is why. Like, why did I turn to therapy? And I think that I kind of came to my low when I was really fighting with my wife a lot, and it really woke me up to be like, you know, I really need to go get some help because this isn't the way I want to live. Like, I don't want to live where I'm thinking about a lot of bad childhood memories, where I'm not treating the people that are around me the way I'm supposed to treat them. And I think that's what really led me to get therapy, because I wanted to be a better person. I knew there was so much more inside of me. And I think that all the childhood trauma that I suffered really held me down and bottled me up. I was crying a lot. I was going through a lot of emotional stuff, and I was fighting with my wife, and I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to make a change, and I think that reaching out for therapy and being able to talk about it really helped me make a change.
Part of the story that I read about you was you experienced that as a child. You saw it with your own parents.
Sure.
A mother that you reference quite a bit as your reason for keep going, because she had to respond to abuse that you and your brother experienced coming up.
My mother was a quadriplegic, so she couldn't really move her hands or legs, and she painted these pictures with paintbrushes in her mouth. She actually painted these beautiful roses that I have in my office. And, you know, sometimes you get down in the dumps, and business is very, very challenging. It is a roller coaster ride, and a lot of people just see the outcome, which they're supposed to see, right? The fans are supposed to see that beautiful, shiny apple, but they don't see what it takes to grow that apple, right? And there's a lot of difficulties along the way, and a lot of times you want to quit.
How do you get past something like that?
You know, my brother and I talk about it a lot, and we go, you know, because I want to have a great relationship with my wife. He wants to have a great relationship with women that he's with. And, I mean, we came from a really bad, abusive childhood, and that's what we learned, right? That was love to us. Love to us was abuse. It was verbal abuse. It was physical abuse. That was love, and we didn't know how to give love the right way. And I think that's really what therapy is helping me with. It's showing me, how do I give love the right way? Like, don't run from it. Like, when I'm getting love, sometimes I fight back because I'm not used to it. That's a weird feeling for me, right? Yeah. And being able to learn how to accept that and turn it into something more powerful, I think that was really, really part of the journey. You know how many fighters came to me and they said, I read your story, man, I'm going to go talk to a therapist, right? Yeah. Because at first, being a man, especially in bare knuckle fighting, like, man, we're the man, right?
Right.
And this guy, I'm going to sit and speak to a therapist, and that's very vulnerable, right? And if I'm doing it, leading this kind of charge, and my fighters are backing me up by doing it, it just opens the door that, listen, sometimes you need to talk to somebody.
Coming up next, full disclosure, my producer Ivana really wanted to feature this. The New Kids, Joey McIntyre? What? Stay tuned. All right, some of these boy bands that make people even like me think I could probably sing a little bit, probably should have been in one of them. That wasn't my career path, but it was the path of our next guest. Joey McIntyre has such a story to tell. His childhood, his growth, his development. The New Kids are actually still touring, and he's got great experiences to share. She has a Vegas residency.
It's become like the music mecca now, you know. We have arrived already, but when you're playing that kind of a big residency, it's an affirmation of all the work you've done to get there. It's so cool that it was still on the table. It's something we haven't done in all these years, and we can feel the excitement within each other, within the group. And I think when we're excited, then the fans are going to get excited. That energy is infectious.
There's still bucket list items that you guys are checking off.
I know.
After 40 years or 30 years of doing this.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big one. So timing is everything. And it's nice that this was still on the table and it was something that we could jump into.
I was on your Instagram page and saw, you were just at Wahlburgers, Donnie
Yeah.
Wahlberg, and supporting each other. I think it's cool for people to see from a distance. It seems like you guys still legitimately like each other and supporting each other.
Yeah, we do. I mean, the thing is, we've always chosen family and friendship over business, and that's not the easiest call. You know what I mean? That takes more work, actually, when you choose that over, business. And it hasn't been easy. It's been any relationship that this long. And it is sweet because, Donnie and I are probably the ones that have butted heads most. I mean, not probably. We have definitely been the two that have butted heads the most over the years. And it's been sweet that, we've been able to spend time, lately. And he's a great supporter. He's a great patron of the arts. You know what I mean? He really is. He just loves to make things. So he's always saying yes. And yes, to your point, he hosted a couple of listening parties, and I'm glad that I'm getting honest about where I was coming from with the music. It's not a secret. I've realized that tension is good. That tension is good for the art.
Guys, if you told me about 3 years ago when we launched The Pulse that we would make it to 165 episodes, I would have thought you were crazy, but that's exactly what this is. This was a look back on the last year, but I'm really excited about the look forward and what's going to come in 2026. And I leave you as I always do, reminding you whenever you can, use your voice for good, and have a good one.